सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.
You're listening to Bare Knuckle Bhakti Shorties on the Bhakti Recovery Podcast with Jiva G, coming at you every Monday with a little spiritual something. Good morning. It's the third step, my friends. We make a conscious decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of Krishna as we understand him. Are you guys ready? We've heard the first step, which is the admittance of powerlessness and unmanageability. We've heard the second step, which is the belief that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity or healthy thinking. And now we are consciously making a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of Krishna as we understand him. This too has kind of two parts. In order to make any decision, we must be very conscious of that decision. It's so important. When we set intention, it's about like setting intentions, right? So we're going to set that intention of making that decision consciously. Now, that's a huge order. Turning our will and our lives, how the heck is that supposed to look? How am I supposed to turn my will and my life? Like my life entirely? My entire will? Everything? Yes. Yes. It means we make that conscious decision to turn our entire will over to the care of Krishna as we understand him and our lives. It's so important. Now, as we understand him is also kind of a separate part, which I'll touch on now, but I'll get to later. I'll touch upon the as we understand him. In our disciplic succession, in our sampradaya, in the Krishna conscious movement, in the Gaudiya Vaishnav movement, we read a specific Bhagavad Gita. It's called As It Is. The Bhagavad Gita As It Is, with purports from Srila Prabhupada, our founding Acharya in the West, at least. So I did not have to grapple with that at all, as we understand it and how it is, and as it is. We can only understand as it is, as in the filters of how we are and where we're at in our lives. So quite simply, that's really what it means. But I'll get to that part later. That's the second part. So the first part. Now, that's a tall order. How do we make that decision to turn our complete lives and complete will? In that moment, we might really want to, like I did. Only I can share my experiences that my will in my life were so unmanageable and so miserable at some point. And that, when I turned to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to a better life, to better thinking, to better decisions, to all of that, I was 100% on board. However, when I started to get clean and sober and build my life back and get the things back, all the people, places, and things, turning my will and my life over wasn't so easy because I had to manage so many things, which was a real uphill battle for me because I was an avoidant. My whole life, I avoided all responsibility, any kind of responsibility. I didn't want any of it. So I really had to work my way slowly up to the point of being able to manage that. So when learning how to manage things but still turn it over, this was really a very long uphill battle. And make no mistakes, it's still a long uphill battle. I just have a little more knowledge and a little more experience, but in no way, shape, or form do I know what it's like to completely surrender and give my life over to the care of Krishna. Because my nature in this material world with my conditionings are always taking that power back. Conundrum. However, I learned how to do that compartmentally. Now, that's not really the goal, but it's a start. So I have turned my will and my life over completely. I made that decision with drugs and alcohol. I have admitted that I was powerless over drugs and alcohol and codependency, so those two things. I did those first three steps on that. And to tell you the results of that is a miracle. And that'll be in the 6th and 7th step later on. Of course, with the 4th and 5th, before that. But since I did that with that kind of lifestyle, with a drug and alcohol lifestyle, with a codependent lifestyle, with those choices, I have completely surrendered my will to Krishna. As he is, actually. But that's just one small part. It's just one small part. It taught me how to do that. It taught me how to admit powerlessness. It taught me how to admit that my life was unmanageable. It taught me how to believe, not only to believe, I was beaten into belief, and I was beaten into submission, people, that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. I didn't want my will, and I didn't want to manage any of it. I couldn't. I was 100% defeated. There was no other choice for me. It was either God, death, or living that way, which was worse than death. Death would have been a welcome thing. So that was the position. And so, like I said, I got clean and sober. Life went on. And it was clear to me that Krishna gave me, I had absolutely no expectations. For me, a happy life was a drug-free life. Just to have that obsession taken from me, I thought that was it. That was the bee's knees. That's life. Anything else is cream on top. And it was like that for a very long time. So in that area of my life, it was really solved. I did the steps on that area of my life. I hit a certain amount of surrender, and that obsession was taken from me. It was lifted from me. It was a divine intervention. But what I didn't realize is that life just goes on. And I'm still here in the material world. And at some point in my sobriety, I realized that this process, this 1, 2, 3 process, the whole step process, is a never-ending cycle here in the age of Kali Yuga. It is a never-ending cycle. It's not a one and done. And so when I hit a certain amount, I kept with certain behavioral patterns that I had been conditioned, my karmic lifestyle, the way I was living my life. I hate the word lifestyle. I'm sorry I'm using that. Style. It's not a lifestyle. It's almost like a life sentence. Hi, it's a druggy lifestyle. I love it. Don't I look great? No. So, really the most important lesson for me was that at some point I hit a wall in my sobriety. I hit a deep depression. because there were underlying conditionings that were so that were always coming up, and I couldn't get around them. And I had thought, damn it, I work the steps. I'm clean and sober. How come I'm not whistling rainbows and being like Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins? Or like, why isn't it like that? I had to let go of that. I had to let go of that idea that it's a one and done. I had to let go of that idea. There was a certain amount of acceptance that I had to, and a certain amount of resilience and knowledge that I had to acquire to understand the position that I have here in this world. That took years of trial and error. And I can only say, I am living proof that we are inherently bhakti yogis. We are. Every one of us are inherent bhakti yogis. Every one of us have that love of God in our heart. Every single one of us. And every single one of us has a different path to get there, to understand it, to uncover, to recover and uncover. Every single one of us has been presented with situations where we either learn from or we repeat them over and over, expect different results, and are miserable at some point. Or we just sort of ignore them, sweep them on the... I mean, there's many outcomes to what we do with the things that get in the way of our Krishna consciousness, the things that don't sit right with our inherent knowledge of pure love of God in our hearts. And that's just mine. Mine was, I learned how to do those 12-step process, that 12-step process, that arduous, and I love the word arduous process, because if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, you will see that Arjuna actually went through a whole 12-step process when Krishna was explaining to him about all of it. And every single one of us have experienced that in one form or another. You know, so I was talking about compartmentalizing. I know that there are certain people on this earth who don't have to compartmentalize. They get that spark and they have turned their will and their lives over. And I really wish I could say I'm one of those people. I'm not. But I am one of those people who will constantly put God first. I'll forget, but I'll keep putting God first. It's not my first nature. I'm still so conditioned. I'm still in this body. I'm still with my conditionings. I'm embodying my karma from lifetimes. That's not, we walk 10 miles into the woods, we got to walk 10 miles out. If I got 10 lives of karma, I got to get out of 10 lives of karma. If I got 1,000,000 lives, you know what I'm saying? So it is important that we make that conscious decision. It is a conscious decision. Any situation that we have, we can consciously decide, Krishna, take this. This is my will. This is my life. I'm making a mess of it here. Take it. And we don't even have to wait until that. See, this is how I think, right? We don't even have to wait to that. We can wake up every morning, get on our knees and say, Krishna, take my will and my life. Krishna, take it from me. I've only made a mess. Without anything happening. You just ask for Krishna's grace in the morning. Thank him in the night before we go to bed. We have to be willing to be willing. So what I was saying before was, I think I kind of got off on another track, but having realized at some point in my sobriety that I wasn't getting any further, and that I wasn't elated anymore, I wasn't relieved anymore, and I didn't have that lightness that I had anymore. Things started to get heavy. and weighing on my shoulders, life's circumstances. The unmanageability came back. And I don't mean the outside unmanageability. I had that managed. It was inside. There was a craziness inside of me. It was a dissatisfaction, irritable and discontent. Because my program wasn't working. Because I hadn't applied it in my regular life. I tried, but I hadn't surrendered. So how can I give my will in my life if I haven't surrendered it? If I haven't admitted that my life is unmanageable and that there's a power greater than myself that could restore me to sanity? How is that even possible? So you see where I'm going. All these steps are connected and it's in a succession. It is very important. The steps 1 to 12 is Arjuna's journey at that battlefield. And we're all born on a battlefield, every single one of us. And until we understand that fully, I don't know if any of us can surrender. I can't talk for you. I can only talk for myself. That has been my experience. Once God was in my life, my material life was over. I could never take, I hope it's not too windy here and you guys hear the wind, it's super windy. But once I take shelter of God and know that God is the absolute only way for me to take shelter of, the only thing that I can surrender my life to without any expectation of a result, then I'm constantly going to be in this cycle of birth and death. And birth and death within this life, not only just life after life, just birth and death of ideas, birth and death of my unmanageability, birth and death of my stupid ideas or attachments. How crazy. So the third step, we make a conscious decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of Krishna as we understand him. Now let's get to the understanding part. I mentioned it before. There is the supreme personality of Godhead, which is untouchable, which is not to be understood because we do not understand fully. We can only understand God as he is, or scripture as they are, through as we understand it and as we are through our karmic layers and our conditionings. That's just fact. Without a divine intervention, there's no way that we're going to be able to conceive that. It would be as if a blind person trying to conceive what a multicolor is. I don't know if that's a comparison, but it's the other one I thought of at the moment. So we can only pray for as it is, but we have to settle for as we understand it. And as we understand it is part of the process. It's part of the grappling of the process of God perfection, of the understanding as it is. And it's an important part because I don't think 99.9% of us can bypass that. I really don't. 99.9% of us can't bypass that. Who can bypass our conditioning? So, I mean, there might be. So anyway, as we understand it is what we got, and we got to work with what we got at the moment. We can surrender to anything, anytime, anywhere. It's at our fingertips. We don't have to have, look, I didn't have any Bhakti knowledge formally. I didn't have any biblical knowledge formally. I didn't have a Torah knowledge formally, although my family is Jewish. We were raised with science. And, but I somehow, it was awakened. It was awakened through the process of grappling with life as it is and life as I understand it. And there is a grappling with life, God as He is, and God as I understand it. It's so important. Do you understand? I hope you do. All right, my friends, that was step 3. How abouty that? We've gone through step 1, 2, and 3. Step 2, I listen to it back. I actually rarely listen to what I say, or not even really, I hardly do. Maybe 3 times in my entire, in all of these things do I listen back to what I've said. I listened to step 2, and it's 80% good. I think I was a little off that day. If there are any questions or if I've left anything out for anyone, please shoot me an email. Hey, also, I just want to let you know, this is through my experience and as I understand it. This is not the word. Everyone has a different journey and a different path. I encourage all of you, if you want to hear other people's renditions, experiences, strengths, and hopes about the steps, I encourage you to go do that. There are lots of speaker tapes on AA and NA. You can listen to anyone talking about the Bhagavad Gita. It's sort of the same thing if you connect those dots. And there's so many different vibes, so many different moods of going through that process. And I encourage everyone to shop around, because maybe my message is not for you. Maybe my message is for the person sitting next to you, and maybe you need something else. Yeah. And I'm going to ask you all to do one thing today. I want you really to ask yourself, am I willing? Can I today make a conscious contact to give, even if it's a part of your will and a part of your life, over to God, to Krishna as you understand Him? Are you willing to do that? Ask yourself that. And if so, how do you want to do it? And when? When and how? You want to do it today? How are you going to do it? And I can give you a couple of suggestions. You can sit somewhere quietly. And there are so many different ways of doing it. I mean, you can do a prayer. You can say a prayer, please, Krishna, take my will in my life over, or take this situation over. I can't do it. Or some people, it's worked. I tried it years ago, putting a little piece of paper in a box. It's a physical thing. So you're actually writing down whatever it is that you want to give up, and you put it in the God box. You can talk to other people, reach out to somebody, ask them how they did it. Because all this knowledge means nothing if we don't put it in our hands and feet. If it's knowledge that stays in my head, it doesn't do any good. I mean, it does at first, but at some point we have to take that first step into action. I love in the Bible where it says faith without works is dead. And this is really true. Okay. And one more thing I want you to do. We're not done yet. One thing I want you to do, the most important thing. I want you to spread this message to anyone who wants to hear it, who you feel. I mean, don't preach. We don't like that. But anyone who's in recovery, who you know, I want you to send them this. Anyone in Bhakti who needs recovery, and you know they need it, send them this podcast. Anyone. That would be the hugest bit of service you can do right now, is spread this message. Spread it. This space is open. Anartas, associated behaviors and addictions, dysfunctions. And we really want to do service. We really want to do service for you guys. All right. Love you all, and we'll see you next week with the 4th step. Hare Krishna. Haribol. Blessings, blessings. Thanks for listening. I hope you liked the Monday Shorties.
Don't forget to check out our full-length episodes on Thursdays. If you like what you heard, spread the word. Peace out.
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.